Welcome back, folks. As the search for the missing Titanic vessel grows more urgent by the minute, we want to give you a closer look at what we know about the inside of this vessel. To do that, let's start with the outside, according to promotional documents and OceanGate video. The Titan, as it's known, is about 22 feet in length, 8 feet in height, and about 9 feet in width. So inside, we're talking tight quarters. CBS reporter David Pogue described the craft as about the size of a minivan. On the inside, there are no chairs. Passengers need to sit cross-legged on the carpeted floor. The only window is the porthole at the front of the submersible. A former passenger described it to the New York Times as the size of a washing machine window. In an interview in 2019, OceanGate CEO said there's a bathroom on the vessel that is larger than most on private planes. Pogue, who went on the Titan last summer, tweeted the vessel does not have any kind of emergency transmitter beacon. He said that when he reported on OceanGate, the Titan got lost for hours, though he wasn't physically on board when it happened. And as we mentioned earlier, the Titan did not go through the extensive certification process known as classing. The company claimed the lengthy procedure would have gotten in the way of rapid innovation. Now let's bring in Sal Mercaliano. He's a maritime historian at Campbell University and adjunct professor at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Sal, let's focus on this vessel for just a moment. How else does the Titan differ from other deep sea vehicles that are able to descend thousands of feet underwater?
Well, the Titan is designed specifically for Titanic. I mean, its depth limitations is right at 4,000 meters, which is about where Titanic is at. What makes it really unique is the fact that it's operating in international waters. It's not operating in coastal waters, in the territorial waters of states, or even in what is known as the EEZ, the Economic Exclusion Zone. And so that means that this vessel really has been operating in a way where there's no outside agency that's coming in to ensure that safety measures and basically putting a second set of eyes on the craft is being done.
Yeah. You are a maritime historian. Does this incident bring to mind comparisons to any other deep sea searches and rescues of this magnitude?
You can go back to 1970s where the Pisces 3, which was a deep submergence vehicle, was lost for a period of time, shallower water, about 1,700 feet. The two-person crew was saved with just minutes of air actually left. So we've never seen
Wow.
one down at this depth, and that's what's really making this a unique issue. When you start talking about those depths, you start talking about the use of sonar and military equipment. Most Navy submarines operate at max depths of about 1,000 feet. When you get down to 12, 13,000 feet, sonar and other types of mechanisms don't quite work the same.
Yeah. And just to make sure that our audience is clear with scope and scale here, the Titanic is around 13,000 feet below the surface, right?
That's right. It's one of the deepest wrecks that's commonly looked at. It's right off the continental shelf, just south of Newfoundland. And, it took a long time to locate this. But one of the things we've seen is periodic voyages out to the site.
Mhm. You've written about how the Titanic led to increased safety measures like the Solas Convention, which stands for Safety of Life at Sea. I don't want to look too far ahead here because this is still a search and rescue mission and lives are still at stake right now. But how might this incident impact safety measures of vessels going forward?
Sure. I mean, the irony here is that when Titanic sank in 1912, 2 years later, in January of 1914, the nations of the world gathered in London and penned what's known as the Solas Convention, the Safety of Life at Sea. And what that included was all the provisions, everything that went wrong with Titanic was looked at: number of lifeboats, lifeboat drills, rescue flares, and most importantly, 24-hour monitoring of radio. Excuse me. The issue now is, how do you incorporate the SOLAS requirements into what is happening with submersibles? I think one of the things we're going to see and needs to be asked is, why is it, for example, Horizon Maritime, the company that operated Polar Prince, the ship that housed the submersible, why was inspections not done on board, and there really wasn't a requirement for it. And so that's an issue for the Canadian Maritime authorities, for Horizon Maritime. And one of the envisionments I see happening here in the future is we may see some new legislation come down about submersibles regarding Solas.
Yeah. As you said earlier, this vessel eludes U.S. regulation by operating in international waters. What are some of the other general concerns or dangers there?
Well, typically ships, and go back to Titanic, one of the things that we have is ships fly flags of registry. There are national standards, international standards that are set. There is regulatory bodies that check them. So, for example, if you're a ship that's flagged in Panama, you come into the United States, the U.S. Coast Guard will inspect you. You'll have these third party, these classification agencies, such as the American Bureau of Shipping, that will come in and ensure you're meeting standards that are set usually by the industry. So, for example, there's a 237-page book put out by the American Bureau of Shipping on standards for submersibles. This is a highly regulated industry. Submersibles are used every day in commercial businesses, in oil drilling, in laying of pipelines and cables. And there's a big fear that this issue regarding commercial tourism down to the depths of Titanic may have an impact on the use of submersibles in the commercial sector.
Yeah. One last thing for you, Sal. There's a theory that this vessel could be rising to the top or already floating on the surface somewhere. How might that impact this search and rescue effort as we're still trying to find out exactly where this vessel is?
Well, one of the deficiencies in this vehicle, obviously, is the lack of any sort of emergency beacon. Vessels sailing across the ocean today have what's called an emergency position indicating radio beacon, an EPIRB. This vessel wasn't fitted with it. And even vessels that sink on their vessel data recorders have transponders. And this vessel is very hard to locate, whether it's bobbing in the ocean, again, the size of a minivan now is lost in the Pacific, made up of this composite material that doesn't reflect radar well, or at the bottom of the ocean. It is going to be a very difficult object to find because of its sheer size and the fact that it's not emitting any sounds or noticeable sounds that can be detected. It's finding a needle in the Atlantic Ocean, which is an extremely difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I saw another anecdote that said those sonar sounds, it's kind of like trying to pick out a snare drum in the middle of a concert. So that gives you a sense of how tough it is to try to locate something like this in the water. Sal Mercoliano, maritime historian at Campbell University, many thanks for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
We are tracking this story by the minute, so be sure to stick with Scripps News for any updates. Our team on Morning Rush will have on-the-ground updates beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern Thursday morning. Coming up later this hour, new data shows U.S. student test scores are plummeting to decades lows. We'll be talking about what can be done to get American students caught up. And next, we talk with a resident in East Palestine, why she's hesitant to go back following the Norfolk Southern train derailment, and the answers she's looking to hear from an NTSB hearing. And folks, we want to hear from you. Call us on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free at 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Share your comments and story ideas with us anytime. We'll be right back.